now. All right, and we are live. Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for joining me. I'm Ryan, the Oxstock of Ox Games, and I'm here today with the whole crew of the Elementile development team to bring you a special show match and opening launch day, Kickstarter launch day event. So I'm really happy that you were here to join us, and this has been an excellent journey for us, and I know it's going to be a wonderful journey for you as you discover the many wonderful decks that can be built in the world of Elementile. So, to start us off, I'm going to show us the trailer, which you may have seen from the Kickstarter ad. Let's go to that now.
As the long winter draws to a close, the winds of magic blow once again. Distant clans that lay dormant once again answer the call of battle. Conflict has breached the elemental plane into our world, and its power is now in your hands. But the elements answer another master. Your opponent also has command of this power, and there can only be one victor. To achieve victory, you must position and plan your assault and use the tides of battle to secure your dominance. Elementile is a grid-based card game that puts you in control of the direction of your deck and resources. Come to battle with your own constructed decks, or prepare for the ultimate tournament of wits in a cube draft with 6 to 10 players. Elementile's unique resource system allows you to take control of your destiny and transmute cards into the elements you need. Replenish your hand at the end of each turn with 2 new cards, ensuring you always have fuel for the fight. Never again will your strategies be crushed on the cruel whim of deck RNG. Face off in intense 1v1 battles of momentum and positioning. Summon units to the field and push them forward to secure more space for future summons. But beware of overextending. Powerful spells can halt your advance and turn the tide of battle against you. Pulverize your opponent's forces as you advance your vanguard. Carefully position your units to make the most of their strengths. A single well-placed strike can be lethal. Once you march your force to the enemy's gates, strike a lethal blow directly for victory, thus ensuring your dominance on the elemental plane. This spring, ready yourself for the ultimate drafting and constructed card game experience. This full cube game comes with everything you need for up to 10 players. Preview the entire card library now on playelementile.com and sign up for our Kickstarter.
And we are now live on Kickstarter. Last I checked, we are over 15% of our goal, funding goal, and that is awesome. That's just for our first day of funding. So please check out the Kickstarter page and continue to watch our stream as we show off a game of Elementile right here in Tabletop Sim. Now, Elementile is going to be a physical product, but for right now, we have it available on Tabletop Sim for you to try out. I'm joined here today by the creator of the game, Zach, and our artist, Amanda. Zach, would you like to say hi to the group?
Hello, everybody.
All right. And Amanda, do you want to say hi?
Yeah, hi guys. It's great to be with you guys today.
All right. This is our first Darkwood Games project that we've gotten to Kickstarter. I am so excited. We have so many more games that we want to create, and it's just been such a passion project for us to bring Elementile into the real world. So we're very excited about it. Now, we have 2 friends here to play a show match. So we're going to have a match here between Nora Adorable and Raceland. So they have their decks and they are ready to go. Guys, if you want to jump into the Game 1 channel, we will not listen to your commentary and we will comment on your game whenever you are ready to go. So Zach, I believe you know what decks these 2 players have picked up today. You want to tell me a little bit about this matchup and how you think it'll go?
Yeah, sure. So these are a couple of the starter decks that are on basically printed in the manual. Those are just some ideas for people to get started deck building. Deck building in Elementile is very forgiving and very new player friendly, so I highly encourage everybody to experiment as much as possible. But those are just basically lists giving people some ideas. So going over them one at a time, Nor Adorable has kind of picked the, I guess, the most vanilla starter deck, great for new players. It has, high power, high value units and a suite of support units and some burn spells. She's using the deck the Radiant Pack. It basically centers around its strong fire units, supporting them, keeping them alive with light units. The idea being they have that high hit point pool, so you'll get the most out of light's healing effects, and you just try to overwhelm your opponent with mid-range value. That's what she's going to be looking to do here against Aaron's Drown in the Abyss deck, which is more of a water dark control style deck that likes to lock down its opponent with freezing spells, which fire is very vulnerable to, and eventually outvalue them with recursive units and spells. This matchup is actually very tough for Raceland's deck because basically it just has to keep up with this mid-range pressure from Nor Adorable's deck, and its win condition kind of revolves around buying enough time to get its hero Phaedra out with Mirror Mail on, so she doesn't immediately get answered by one of the many removal options that's available in the Radiant Pack. And once he can get that going, he can basically recursively cycle his control spells and lock his opponent down. That's pretty much his avenue to victory. Whereas on the other side,
So
Radiant Pack...
I have Phaedra up here. So how is Phaedra the engine of Raceland's deck?
It's that second ability. For 2 elements, you can move a spell from your graveyard to the top of your deck, and that just allows you to reuse all of your freezing and shattering spells.
So you're just able to get a ton of value out of those high quality spells.
Yeah, in the late game, when you have elements to spare, you just never run out of cards with Phaedra on the board. Unfortunately, she's very frail, can be answered by removal pretty easily, so that's what the Mirror Mail is for. It looks like
Mirror Mail do for you?
Mirror Mail prevents basically removal spells from being able to target the unit that's attached to. It's an attached spell. So, for a couple light, there's some splash of light in that deck for that one support spell.
Yeah, let me see if I can find Mirror Mail real quick. So Mirror Mail is going to prevent my opponent from doing much to Phaedra using spells.
It's top left.
Top left. There it is. So how do attach spells function?
So attached spells are, unlike burst spells, which just have an effect and then go into the graveyard, attached spells go on to a unit and they stay until the unit leaves play somehow. So they just augment an existing unit.
So they attach on like an aura effect and will follow that unit around the board, doing whatever it says on it.
That is correct.
Right,
and it looks
so
like...
This one prevents burst spells. Okay.
Yeah, and your opponents can't attach future spells to that unit. Looks like we have a pretty traditional opening here. Nor Adorable went for the pup, and Raceland responded with the skeleton. They chose to go in opposing positions. Raceland trying to halt the advance of that pup. If that pup is to move forward, then the skeleton will be able to take it out with its movement and attack. So that's a good answer to the opening that Nor Adorable presented. We'll see if she tries to maneuver around that skeleton or just opts to sacrifice her pup for the sake of momentum.
Now I see that both the players are getting these element cards from the side of the board. How does resource generation work in Elementile?
Yeah, so you're allowed to get 1 resource per turn, essentially. And the way that works, the cost for that resource is you have to look at your hand and basically put 1 card in the ethereal plane. And when your cards are in the ethereal plane, you basically won't get to use them for a very, very long time. They're pretty much gone. So you have to choose wisely and make the proper sacrifice. And then that will allow you to get the resources you need to play cards.
Okay. So I can choose what I have in my hand that is kind of the least useful for the situation, and I can get the exact element color that I'm looking for. But I have to be sure that that card that I throw away is really not going to be useful for a while.
Yeah, some of the key decision making in this game revolves around what you're going to give up to gain your resources. You have to be very careful and not give away something that ends up being very useful. It also allows you to have some tech options just built directly into your deck. You don't need like a sideboard or anything. You have like specific options for specific scenarios. If they're not going to be useful in the given matchup, you can just go ahead and convert them to elements. So it allows for play patterns to adapt based on the matchup, because this game does have, some matchup dependencies.
Would you say the matchups are kind of rock, paper, scissory, or I guess it kind of depends on the combination of colors that you put together?
Yeah, it really depends. I think a well-built deck should be able to have answers to even its technical counter.
Ooh, now what's this blood ritual burst spell that just came out here?
Yeah, so Raceland just played Blood Ritual on his first summoning phase here, meaning he has to sacrifice a creature or a unit, and if he does, then his opponent has to sacrifice a unit. So that's going to take care of one of the two threats here, just for a single dark element.
Ooh, and he gets to choose what the opponent is destroying.
No, the opponent chooses.
The opponent chooses.
Yeah.
Okay. But
So he chooses first.
So his first summoning phase means it's before he's able to move and attack with that unit this turn.
Yeah, it's before he's able to get real value off of the unit. So the spell is very cheap. It only costs one dark element, which is quite cheap, especially in darkness where you can sacrifice a recursive unit like the skeleton. It's a good way to deal with your opponent's threats. But the problem is, or the drawback is, you don't get to use that unit on that turn. So, unless, if you discard Blood Ritual, you actually get to trigger its burst effect, and that can happen whenever you're forced to discard a card.
Oh, interesting.
So that's a way to get extra value.
And you may trigger its burst effect as if it was played. Very cool.
Yeah, so Raceland opted to use Blood Ritual, and then no matter what Norador will sacrifice there, he was going to play his Snowman opposite it to try and halt this advance. Again, this is a control deck, so he's just trying to buy time right now. And so far, he's doing all right.
And so far I've seen a number of units be summoned to the board. It looks like it's a pretty simple function of paying the cost that's shown in the upper left there.
Yeah, that's correct. So those gray spheres are any color. Other than that, there's a little symbol that corresponds to the element. You can use your elements once per turn to summon units. And when you summon units, you can put them in your home row or starting row, which is the row closest to you, or any row where you control a unit or before. So it's, in this case, that Snowman's going to get fireballed away, and Norador's going to push up her Frenzied Flame, which will allow her to summon deeper next turn if it is able to survive.
Yeah, so as you gain positioning on the board, going towards your opponent, you unlock additional area that you can summon in. So it's really like gaining that kind of territorial control against your opponent.
Yeah, so again, a control deck like the one Raceland is piloting here, he's going to want to try and deal with that Frenzied Flame to try and stop the momentum of his opponent. Because if he's able to remove it, then she has to go back to square one, can only summon in her first row there. But if he's not able to deal with it and actually clear it off the board, then that gives her just an additional foothold, which again, as a control deck, you don't want your opponent to have that.
Now I see this Frenzied Flame has an attack mod. So it attacks twice when it uses one of its attack sides.
Yeah, so its attack sides aren't super high, but he is going to use them twice. It's basically an anti-unarmored unit. If you don't have armor to soak up basically reduced damage from its attacks, it's going to hit quite hard. If you do have armor, it could end up being totally useless. In this matchup, I think it's probably going to be pretty solid.
Yeah, and so that armor is going to soak up damage equal to its value from each instance of damage, which really makes it strong against small little pings of damage. But
Yeah,
for larger attacks, you're likely sacrificing a lot to have that high armor.
yeah. A lot of high armored units don't have a ton of health, so they go down to one big hit. But a unit like multiple small pings, they can survive, and this is a unit that's multiple small pings in one. So not very good against armored units, but again, in this matchup, there's not a ton of armor, so I think Frenzied Flame is a solid go-to choice here. It looks like Raceland has played. He's actually gone into Light, activated Triversity. We'll see if that matters later, and played a Divine Gift. The control deck that he's playing is also kind of a combo deck, so it runs Divine Gift to be able to search for key combo pieces. That's what he's doing here.
So tell me about that rainbow symbol I see on the fireball.
Yes, so that's Triversity. If you control 3 different types of enemy elements, so right now Raceland controls a water element, a darkness element, and a light element. He has activated Triversity. Nora Dorble just controls fire. She has not activated Triversity. She still needs 2 more different types. If you have, then you don't have to pay those little triangle rainbow costs. If you haven't, they're the same as the little gray circles. You can pay them with any type of element.
Okay, so in this case, Nora had to pay a fire and a generic because she only has 2 different colors among her elements. But if she had 3, then she'd only have to pay the 1 fire.
Yeah, that's correct. So when she had played it last turn to take out the snowman, she had to actually play 2.
Now, I
It looks
also
like
see some special elements out there.
Yeah, so if you don't spend the element, you can flip up to 1 per turn. So it looks like Raceland last turn did not have a very eventful turn. You see that 1 tapped light element, everything else was untapped. So he divine gifted and did nothing else. He overcharged, that's called overcharging, his darkness element. So now his darkness can be basically spent as any color. But it hurts to have a turn like that. 3 unspent elements when I was just talking about how he really needs to deal with that Frenzied Flame. And he gave Nora Dorble a chance to, if we look, she's summoned the Sun Mage here, and she's advanced that Frenzied Flame. He's going to have to start dealing with these threats here. And then the fire element on Nora Dorble's side of the field, the overcharged one, that was spent as a light to cast that Sun Mage, so that should be flipped back over to light. Once overcharged elements are expended, they go back to their normal dormant state.
So overcharging is just another way to kind of filter elements across turns, where if you have like a low tempo turn, you can at least kind of make up for it by having a little more flexibility with your next cast.
That's exactly right. It's a little way to make up for having maybe a slower play.
So the Sun Mage seems to have quite low stats, but it looks like his attack mod is actually giving him, at 6 health, it would be giving him +3 to all of his attack sides.
That's correct. He's got pretty strong attacks out of the gate, but as he gets damaged, they get weakened. Luckily, he's a light unit, so he should have a lot of support to be able to heal him up. But, yeah, when he does get damaged, his attacks become less useful. It's the only unit in the game like that. Usually, even if you got 1 hit point, that's enough to swing with all your might. But for him, not so much. So it looks like Raceland was able to clear that Frenzied Flame now, but the Sun Mage is still on the board and will be advancing, I'm almost certain. We'll see what happens here. And like I said before, that fire is going to return to its dormant state. Raceland tapped out, so he had an overcharged darkness that is now back to its normal state as well. And we'll just see what happens from here. This isn't like
spy on people's hands.
Oh yeah, you have to be the game master.
That's all right. We won't spy on them. Now, Elementile, one of my favorite aspects of this game was just how good it is in draft mode. And I think that it owes a lot to the way that you acquire elements for how good that cube drafting mode functions. So in a draft, you have 15 card booster packs that are randomly created from the total pool of cards, and then you sit down with a group of 6 to 10 friends. You pick a card out of your opening pack. Everyone has a pack. You pick a card, and then you pass the rest of the cards on. And you do that for 3 total packs, so you go through a total of 45 cards. And then you slim that down to 35 cards, and then play with that set. And because you can just convert anything that's like kind of junk in your hand into elements, you can really have a pretty wide color range and still like function quite well. So Zach, when you designed this game, I think you talked a lot about having it be designed with this draft mode in mind. Can you talk a little bit about how you designed the drafting into the game?
Oh yeah, for sure. I mean, I've always liked cube drafting a lot. It just adds another element to the game. I like deck building a lot, and having just to make the most of what you get, I think is very exciting. People love opening packs, and I'm no exception. So I really wanted to have drafting be a core focus of this game, and because of that, like you kind of got to be a little more lenient with deck building, I think, because you always want to have a good match between drafted decks. Sorry, I'm getting a question.
Oh, sounds like we got a rules question going on. So we are here on what looks to be turn 5 of this match. Seems to be still kind of sparring off with each other, holding back on both sides. No team has made it too far past the center line here. So definitely a back and forth contest. Blood
that
ritual.
hurt. That hurts. So, okay, here's the thing. Nora Dorable made kind of a big risk there. Last turn, she played this banner. Powerful card that is going to affect her units the rest of the game. This Blazing Surge. All units for the rest of her game are going to hit harder and they're going to have more health. But because of that, she didn't fortify her line at all, which left her open to a Blood Ritual. She's got one thing on the board. She has no option. She has to sacrifice the Sun Mage. Meanwhile, Raceland was able to play a zombie and use that as Blood Ritual fodder. That zombie can come back very cheaply and only costs 1 to play. So even though it was a 2-for-1 trade in terms of cards, it was 2 elements to 4 elements. So he gets tempo out of that, and the zombie can come back. So
Ooh, so that was a good use of that blood ritual.
That blood ritual is vicious.
So it was 2 cards, but only 2 elements, and then you can return the zombie to your hand for a 3rd element.
Yeah,
So
and he can whenever. He doesn't have to do it now, so it's really flexible. Whenever you have an extra darkness, you can just pop that guy in your hand. He's doing that with the skeleton right now. Skeleton's generally more useful. But that's another thing that darkness can do. You know, they can put these recursive cards back in their hand and then turn them into elements. They can, put them in the ethereal plane when they're no longer needed.
Yeah, and by resetting Nora's board, really pushed her back in terms of advancing on the board. Because as she advances, she's able to summon reinforcements right there, and now she's got nothing. She's got to start at the beginning.
Yeah, that is a momentum killer. And again, against this control deck, you're against the clock. When it gets its engine out, that's its win con. So, and he, Raceland Divine Gifted earlier, that could have been for a combo piece, that could have been for an answer. I don't really know. On the turn, he didn't really spend any other elements, so I feel like it might have been searching for an answer. Kind of tough to say. But right now, it's an interesting approach. Against this deck, you don't want to fill the board up too much because of a particular combo that we haven't seen yet. You could get punished for that, and I think Nora Dorval is navigating around that with the Blazing Surge. I think that's really clever. But in this case, Raceland had another Blood Ritual, and she's going to get a little bit punished for that. We'll see if she can build her momentum back up and overcome this, or if that's going to prove to be too much.
Well, it doesn't look too bad at this stage, right?
Oh, no.
We only have a fairly weak 5-cost Relentless Dead here, who is another one of those units that can keep returning. But like you said, Raislin's playing the control deck, so the longer he's able to just sit around building up, the harder it's going to be for Nora Adorable to close out the game.
Yeah, and honestly, I'm kind of wondering, like, obviously Nora Adorable doesn't really look like she's under siege here. It's just one unit. It's pretty far back. That deck doesn't really have a lot that is going to overwhelm you, necessarily. I'm kind of wondering if Raceland is even going to advance his Relentless Dead beyond that, or just start trying to fortify that second line and buy himself more time. I think if I were playing the deck, I'd probably opt for the latter. But, yeah, I don't know. It'll be interesting to see. And again, that banner shouldn't be underestimated. Nora Adorable did make a sacrifice for it, and it can be very powerful.
It does just make everything she has from here on out stronger on attack and in health. And that one health can make the difference between, being able to one-shot and trade efficiently with things and, taking 2 attacks to kill something, which, really slows you down.
Yeah, especially in a deck like this with no ranged options and no good mobility options. Like, they're not playing wind, they're not playing earth. Trying to get 2 hits on one thing can be very, very cumbersome, and that one health can make all the difference. So, I don't know. This will be interesting.
Yeah.
I like where the game's going.
And we've certainly seen advancing to that third row can be really challenging, because once you're on this third row here, while you are threatening lethal or threatening attacks against your opponent the following turn, your opponent can just summon something right there and attack, because they can always summon to their back row.
Yeah, this might be, hindsight bias, but there was a turn when Nora Adorable still had her Frenzied Flame and her Sun Mage. She opted to summon the Sun Mage first and then move the Frenzied Flame up. If she had done that in the reverse order, she could have put the Sun Mage on row 3. And I think reading the fact that Raceland hadn't played anything, that might have been a better play. But, hindsight's 20/20. It's like she's opting
really press that tempo advantage.
Yeah, you see your opponent kind of break the turn, you just push, go all in, and hope they're not baiting you, right? But
and that's something else I've really seen with this game. It really has that tug of war dynamic where if you spot a weakness and you think you can just yank that rope out of your opponent's hand and just crush them, sometimes you just got to take it. But at the same time, if you do overextend, there's a lot of ways your opponent can turn that tide right back against you.
Yeah, a lot of it comes down to just understanding the matchup and understanding, is this my window or am I going to have an opportunity later, right? If it's your window, even if you think they might have an answer, you might just have to push for it. And that just comes with experience.
That's that classic card game, just deep knowledge on, like in poker, where you don't know that you're going to win with 100% certainty, but you know that it's a 55% chance that this is going to be the way to win, and sometimes you just lose them. Just being able to recognize that time.
You just have to know when to push it. So, looks like Nora Adorable got a Justice Flamesphere out on the board. So she's rebuilding her board presence. Opts to put it not opposite the Relentless Dead. So not too worried about that Relentless Dead.
So Justice,
and that was a wise decision. That was a very wise decision, because out comes the Veil of Night, which I would have put the Justice Flamesphere opposite the Relentless Dead, and I would have just gotten blown out by this 100%. I'll tell you that right now.
Okay, so this is another banner card, so kind of a permanent effect on the board. And that at the start of each of your activation phase, you choose one allied unit, and that allied unit gets instant kill, lethal damage.
Yeah.
Okay, so the little scythe guy is lethal damage. So basically, at the beginning of combat activation, you get to pick one guy that's gonna just kill. Really?
Yeah. So ordinarily, that Relentless Dead wouldn't have held a candle to this Justice Flamesphere. He would have only made him stronger if he went up and hit him.
Yeah, because he only has 4 attack to Justice Flamesphere's 8 health, so it would have damaged it a bit. But the Justice Flamesphere does get bigger as it takes damage.
Right. But with the lethal damage, it would have just killed it. And that's what I'm saying. I definitely would have gotten... My Justice Flamesphere would be dead right now.
Oh, and that that banner really negates a lot of the benefit of the Blazing Surge banner, which gives additional HP. But that doesn't matter so much if it's going to die in one hit.
That's true. But, the Veil of Night will only affect one unit, so we'll see if Noradorval can put together enough threats to basically make that less of a priority. But again, Veil of Night is one of those tech options, right? Fire units have very high hit point values and very low armor. Generally, that's really tough for Darkness to deal with because they're more of an armor piercing element. But with lethal damage, it kind of works the other way and is their answer to fire cards. So that's a very good play coming out from Raceland.
Yeah, and that definitely seems like a great investment for him as the control player. Now, all of a sudden, all of his reoccurring zombies and undead are just going to be a huge chronic pain for Noradorval. So let's see, how are their hands doing? I see 6 cards and 7 cards, so they still got plenty of gas left here. And with Elementile, you always draw 2 cards at the end of your turn. And so as you're, in the element generation phase, you're only net gaining 1 card because you're spending 1 to get elements. But eventually you can just kind of choose to keep all of your cards as gas and just have, multiple cards to play a turn.
Yeah, and that's when you see people starting to really run out of cards in hand in this game, is when they get enough elements built up to make a couple powerful plays per turn. Then you see people starting to run out of cards in hand. And then they might opt to, especially if they're continuing to get elements and build up while making multiple plays a turn, you'll chew through your hand really fast. So eventually, players will often basically opt to stop building up their element pool once they get to, it kind of varies based on your deck. I like to stop around 8 or 9 for the decks I generally play.
Ooh, wait, we got an explosion spell coming out here.
Yep, that's going to be rough.
So this deals damage based on a grid. Now, but you can rotate that grid how you would like, right?
Well, the grid has to be rotated like that, but it must be positioned, or it can be positioned wherever you want on the field. So the units further back are always going to take less damage than the ones in front. In this case, it was used on 2 units right next to each other, 5 damage each. That's going to wipe the board.
Oh, and wow. And still has enough for Firewolf Hunter.
Yeah, it wiped the board for 4. So the Relentless Dead, you're not too sorry to see go. It comes back to the battlefield for 2 dark, but it's sad to see a Wintermist Walker die like that. And I know, it's kind of tough against this Radiant Pack deck because those units could have been spaced out further to basically play against the explosion. That explosion could have been a Lightning Cross, and it's really tough to play around every single AoE that this deck has. So I can't really blame Raceland for that, but it does hurt to see both of those units go down like that. That's going to be real. I mean, it's going to be a big help in seeing Noradorval get back into this game, get some momentum back.
All of a sudden, that Veil of Night doesn't do as much when there's no units to pump up.
It's true, and even if, Raceland's able to summon something, he can summon something and then declare it to have lethal damage, but it can't move this turn, and he can only summon to his home row, so it's not going to be very useful this turn. I expect we'll see something summoned in one of these empty columns. That's my expectation. Or we're going to probably see some sort of spell to try and halt this advance. I don't think there's... Kind of got to go one or the other.
Oh, that's a cute little card. Snowball Slime.
Yeah, it looks like he's just there to plug up a gap. You put him right opposite that Justice Flame Sphere. I mean, he's basically getting foddered off. Oh, okay. No.
There you go. So Flash Freeze, up to 3 targets are frozen until their end of their next activation phase. And Freeze works almost like a full silence, as well as paralyzing the units for a turn.
Yeah, so for 1 turn they can't move, attack, and none of their abilities function. But on top of that, that Snowball Slime is doing exactly as his name implies. He snowballs. As he sees enemies get frozen, he becomes bigger. And out comes a Shatter on top of the Flash Freeze. So one of these two units is dying, and I imagine that Hunter because, yeah, so the Justice Flame Sphere...
Destroy a frozen unit, and then it has some splash damage that's 3 armor-piercing splash damage, but that won't hit anything.
Yeah, I think Nor Adorable was playing around that specifically, which is very important against this deck. That was a combo that I kind of alluded to earlier, the Freeze Shatter. You have to be cognizant of it, and you have to know that they're going to go for it eventually. In this case, it's a 2-for-1, but with the added value that you're getting onto your Snowball Slime there, I think that's a great play. I find it interesting that Raceland went for the Snowball Slime opposite the Justice Flame Sphere and shattered the Pyrowolf Hunter. I feel like I probably would have done the opposite just because the Justice Flame Sphere has more health. It's a little tougher to take down, but I don't know. I don't know what's in his hand. I'm kind of wondering what he has planned for later.
Oh, that is interesting. Yeah, because the Pyrowolf Hunter only has 6 health. Seems a lot more manageable than the 8 on the Justice Flame Sphere.
Yeah, maybe he's just really afraid of that pump. I don't know. The pump ability can be threatening, but Justice Flame Sphere also gets bigger, so it's hard to say exactly without knowing his hand exactly what he's worried about. But maybe just like corner position better as well. It's a little more out of the way for Snowball Slime. I like to put my engines in the corner, so that could be it. But yeah, maybe we can... I don't know if he'll necessarily remember in the post-game commentary, but that would be interesting to ask about.
Yeah, well, in that Snowball Slime, we've seen this get pretty ridiculous.
Yeah.
I think the biggest Snowball Slime I've seen had upwards of 20 water elements on it, and it was quite snowbally.
I know the game you're talking about. I think the game should have ended a long time before it actually did, but the Snowball Slime ended up at 36 health.
Wow. Okay, they were just kind of playing it out just to get it big.
Yeah, it was a little stalematy, but you know, with that sort of engine, you're gonna win eventually. Oh, big boy.
Well, that is certainly possible with this game. A certain level of patience in the matchup is also very useful. Like you said, it's very much about knowing the matchup, knowing what your deck can do, knowing what your opponent can do. Although in a draft setting, that is harder, so you kind of have to kind of balance that with what it looks like they're up to.
Yes. Yeah, starter decks to starter decks, you kind of know their composition, so you can play around it easier. In drafting, you just have to read the elements they're putting out there and just know what is available, what's common, what's uncommon, what's rare.
Now this Flame Demon seems like quite the beast.
Yeah, that's a firebomb. That's like their big premier unit. He hits hard. He does splash damage when he kills stuff. He flies around, so he's super mobile. This is actually the first flying unit we've seen in this game. That's what Nor Adorable grabbed that wind element for a little while ago, I suppose. And I guess, you know, it kind of telegraphed we should have seen this coming with that wind element. It was either going to be this flame demon or an angel. But flying movement allows a unit to move diagonally as well as cardinally. So you can just, more easily maneuver around and get those kills that result in splash damage.
Yeah, so flying, that's the icon in the upper right, the one with the wing on it. So flying units are able to move diagonally as well as cardinally, whereas the other units, you can see with the little foot. Oh, we got some action going on here.
And it's dead.
Another freeze shatter. Oh, brutal.
Oh, yeah, okay, so it makes sense. I totally forgot about the Veil of Night. It doesn't matter which... So he wanted the corner position with the Snowball Slime. He knew he was going to be able to kill whatever it was in one hit anyway because of the Veil of Night. And then a freeze shatter onto the Flame Demon. Again, it's a 2-for-1 trade, but you're not... you need that Flame Demon dead.
Well,
if we look at cards in hand...
going to continue the value of the Snowball Slime, so he does have momentum on the board. If he can bring the zombies back, then that's a source of at least something to throw out there.
Gonna have to, though. We're looking at 6 cards to 2 now, so we're seeing a significant card advantage for Nor Adorable. Now that we've seen these freeze shatters, they're a powerful combo, but it takes a toll on your hands. So Raceland's gonna have to start relying on his recursion here if he wants to keep this momentum.
And he brings the Relentless Dead back.
Yep.
Relentless Dead is definitely very overcosted for that initial cast. I mean, 5 elements gets you kind of a pile of junk here. I mean, it's only 4 attack. I guess it is 4 health and 1 armor, which isn't like the worst.
It's a pretty awful 5-drop, but a very good 2-drop. And once it's in your graveyard, it's a 2-drop for the rest of the game.
Yeah, how much do you think you're overpaying for Relentless Dead on that initial cast? Is this kind of like a 3 or a 4?
He's
element?
a decent 3-drop. He's a decent
3-drop.
I mean, if you compare him to the Pyrewolf Hunter, he's kind of like the Pyrewolf Hunter with slightly different stat line and no ability. So,
well, and then if you compare him to like Effie here, which I guess isn't quite fair as a hero, but
yeah,
he's basically hero version of that Pyrewolf Hunter.
She's got like 1 more effective hit point, right? You got 4 health, 1 armor versus 6 health, no armor.
Actually, very similar attack sides, but
yeah,
also has the ability to pump her attack sides.
And her entire team, but the Hunter just does himself. So I think they're pretty comparable cards. I think in terms of like, I might sacrifice the 1 effective hit point for an armor. I might take the 4 and 1 over the 6 and 0. Depends on the matchup, I guess. I think they're pretty even. So yeah, he's a pretty solid 3-drop, right? But paying 5 for him is quite a bit.
Yeah, well, the 1 armor does really help against a lot of the early game stuff. So if you were actually playing him on turn 3, I'd definitely rather have the armor.
Yeah.
At this stage of the game, everything's going to hit so hard that I'm not sure it's
not going to do much. It will not do a whole lot. So we'll have to see what the rebuttal here is from Nora Adorable. Her threats have been answered pretty roundly. The Veil of Night is a real problem. She needs to go wide, play a bunch of units. I think we've seen 2 Shatters played, so there's only 1 more in the deck, unless there's like a Phaedra coming out.
Yeah, so talk to me a little bit about deck construction. If I'm building a constructed deck, what are my limitations?
Your limitations are basically going to be the cube, more or less. You're only allowed to put, beyond that, you can only have 3 of a given card in your deck. So the cube comes with 5 of each common, 3 of each uncommon, and then 1 of each rare and hero. So you can only have 1 of each rare or hero just because you only have 1 copy. And then you can only have 3, even though you own 5 commons, you can only have 3 in a constructed deck.
And how many cards in a constructed deck?
Oh yeah, and they're 40 card decks. Other than that, no rules.
And that is different from the drafted decks, which I believe are 35?
Yeah, it's 35 because your pool, at least the way that we kind of recommend doing drafts, you can do drafts in a ton of different ways, but kind of like the rulebook listed way, you're going to end up with a 45 card pool. And I feel like cutting 10, even with the very lenient element curves and all of that, I still feel like cutting 10 is reasonable. Cutting 5, you're almost playing every single card you take, which, at a certain point, you kind of have to get lucky when that's the case.
Yeah, at some point you just take some junk. Ooh, Plunder the Deep. What does this do?
So that's
3 cards.
Yeah, that's kind of what this deck, if it's experiencing no pressure, this is kind of what it wants to go for on turn 3. If it doesn't have to take any darkness elements its first 3 turns, it doesn't want to.
Oh yeah, it can't take any darkness to make this play on turn 3.
Yeah, so you have to rely on an early game of water units, which are not super strong, so you don't get to do this a lot on turn 3, but if you can, you kind of have it made, because you can search your deck for your Relentless Deads, put them in your graveyard, basically circumventing that initial 5 cost. So you basically bypass the initial investment, and you get to search for your combo pieces, your engines that are going to win you the game. Like if you had any Relentless Deads in your hand before playing this card, they just turn into extra tutors. Very, very powerful, right?
Okay, so I'm gonna want to play this card. I'm gonna want to get probably 2 Relentless Deads, unless I have any in my hand, and then 1 card that I think is gonna be a valuable piece against my opponent. So would this be
Phaedra?
Pick up Phaedra?
Yeah, Phaedra, Mirror Mail, whatever you're missing. If you're worried about pressure and you don't have Freeze or Shatter in your hand, you take the other thing you need. It just gives you whatever you need, and if you have your Relentless Deads or Blood Rituals in your hand already, they just become extra tutors from your deck, and you can discard those for an effect. So yeah, kind of an insanely powerful effect in this deck, and a lot of reasons to play these elements together.
Yeah, because that does put all 3 colors in there. Is that all 3 colors of this deck? It has the light,
Yeah,
water, and the darkness?
yeah, that's correct. And the other deck, the Radiant pack, is almost entirely fire and light. It has little splashes of earth, darkness, and wind, but a lot of times you're going to be playing those with overcharged elements instead of actually investing a full element into any of those colors.
Yeah, the overcharge does really help you meet that requirement.
Yeah, you'd much rather be playing those with overcharge elements than actually picking up an element that you're going to be stuck with the whole game that can only really pay your generic costs. But sometimes you don't have the tempo to do that, and you have to. So
Yeah, that was one thing I really like about this game is how in control of the tempo you can be. Like, because you kind of know what your hand is and you draw multiple cards a turn and you know what elements you're going to have access to. I really liked being able to construct my deck and like just lay it out where it has like multiple paths on it. And I thought that was really cool how I can kind of like lay out the different okay, turn 1, turn 2, turn 3 things, but also if I stumble at any point there, if I need to adapt, like being able to overcharge an element or being able to like divert to a different path, just felt really cool to play.
yeah, and it also just opens up a lot of opportunities for splashes. Like if you might not have like it might not be in your primary or even secondary color, but if there's a card that really synergizes well with your game plan, you always have that overcharge to maybe smooth out your curve and make it work. It just incentivizes you to play neat combos instead of just having to be locked into like 2 complete elements. I think it just adds a little more replayability, adds more options.
Yeah, and especially with some of the like utility spells, it's a lot easier to include that in a deck that isn't otherwise in those elements, since you don't exactly need to cast them on curve the same way that like a 2-cost unit gets significantly weaker as the game goes on. Whereas a 2-cost spell might even be more useful if it's like a shatter or a freeze effect.
Yeah, true. Also, like some units, even low cost units, it's interesting. Like when this game was first going around, the meta was just to have like basically one drop in your deck, and then because starting hands you get to search for any card in your deck, and the safety strat was like search your 1 drop out, then all of your cards will be value. And I think that's still there's some merit to that, especially for like mid range decks. But even cheap units in the late game, they can serve as valuable screens. Like if you're going for that final push into your enemy, they can screen for your big boy units. Even a unit with just like 3 hit points, they still have to play something and deal with it. So it forces them to have more specific answers, some sort of AoE spell, some sort of removal spell to get rid of that plug. And if you played it just for 1 element, that might be, too tough to answer efficiently for your opponent. So I tend to decks with more 1-drops now than we originally did.
With with the way that summoning works, like if you could just clog the board up, like get close to your opponent and then just clog up the board with a bunch of junk, like your opponent has to answer each of those things. And if they're not able to answer all of those things, then all of a sudden you have a foothold on your next turn to, untap the full set of elements and start slapping down some big boys right in your opponent's face.
Yeah, for sure, easier said than done to just like push and then have leftover elements to clog the board. But if you manage to do that, that's definitely a win con in this game. And it looks like Graceland retreated his Snowball Slime, which actually allows the Justice Flame Spear to come up. I wonder what he was kind of afraid of there, because I thought he had a very powerful position. But he did retreat it. So now in comes, Advanced Justice Flame Sphere. We've got the medic moving over to support Effie. Effie also has Sanctity up, meaning she can't take any damage. We got a Powerwolf pup out there. This board is getting really full.
Yeah, there's a lot of stuff on Nordorable's half of the board now.
I would be terrified of a Freeze Shatter combo here targeting Effie. Sanctity, protects from damage, but Freeze Shatter is still available, and that would do damage to Justice Flamesphere and it would also kill the medic. I would be really worried about that, but Raceland's already played 2, so
He
this is going to be
2 out of those 3, right?
It's going to be one of those things where it's like, does he have it? And he needs a source of freeze, too. How many cards in hand? Let's see. Looks like
5 cards. And he did
5 cards in hand.
He didn't just use his Plunder the Deep effect.
5 cards in hand. 8
exactly what he was looking for. Do we know?
Yeah, I would not. I would not. I would not have done this. I'm just so afraid of another freeze shatter here.
Well,
I have to
see. It's going to Raislin's turn.
I have to imagine he has it, or he has Phaedra, and at this point, Phaedra could be just as bad. She can put one of those, whatever he needs, on top of his deck. She can attack to draw discard. She can basically get it on her own. Now, does he have enough to play her, get that, play it all, and then also protect her with a Mirror Mail? Probably not. And if he can't, I think you just let it sit for a turn because you prioritize protecting Phaedra. So maybe this is okay. Maybe I'm just a coward. But I'd be so terrified right now.
Well, and we have to remember that banner's out there that can give any one of Raislin's units lethal.
Yeah. Yeah, it's scary. But, the only...
could come out here.
I think what he's going to do is probably play something opposite the Justice Flamesphere and just target that with a lethal damage, because he can't damage Effie.
Oh, and he does have the Relentless Dead there. Oh.
Phaedra, gotta
Phaedra coming out in the back row.
Is this going to be the turn? Does he have the Mirror Mail? Is he going to set up the engine here? He has the elements for it. He has the 2 light. He's going for it. I think this is the Mirror Mail. Yeah, that's a Mirror Mail onto the Phaedra. So that's the game-winning engine here for Drowned in the Abyss. It might.
So this deck is now... Okay, so Phaedra is now protected by a unit in front with this Relentless Dead, and can no longer be the target of spells from the opponent. So it's going to be real difficult to get in there and kill Phaedra. And then Phaedra can now, up to twice a turn, start putting spells from the graveyard onto the top of the deck. And 2 spells includes both Shatter and freezing effects, which are right here. So Flash, Freeze, and Shatter. So freeze 3 units and then Shatter. Oh, no.
Yeah, this game's over. He's got the Snowball Slime on the field. Veil of Night is out as a banner. This is Scoopsville, man. You cannot let that happen.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah, because the Snowball Slime is just going to continue to get larger and larger by 3 attack and 3 health every turn.
This is
game over.
Order. I mean, what do you
do? This is the whole lock this deck is looking to do, right?
Yeah, this is the setup. I mean, if it can't win with this, then it had no win condition. Like I think this one's it. I'm trying to think of a way that the Radiant Pack can fight this. It has a Mirror Mail of its own, could stop some of these Freeze Shatter shenanigans, but the Veil of Night's right there. You take 1 damage. All your support's gone, so you can't just stop the damage with Medics, which would be the counterplay to this Veil of Night. Medic's very important in this matchup if the Veil of Night comes out.
Now, how does Medic help you against Veil of Night?
So the reaction for the Medic to prevent that damage, that can prevent lethal damage.
Oh, I see. His lower ability there. Reaction the first time each turn an adjacent ally takes damage, you prevent 2 of it. Okay, so if you're able to prevent all the damage from both this ability and from armor, then lethal would not kill your guy. Is that right?
Right, that's correct. So not a lot of armor in these decks. So basically the Relentless Dead would still be killing stuff, but you couldn't just tap stuff to death with a little zombie or a frog or something like that. Well,
let's see. Does Nora Adorable have any chance to just blitz in here and win? Is it? I mean, right now the center row is open, but boy, is it dangerous with those 2 units on the side, especially that Snowball Slime.
Yeah, it's rough, man. I mean, okay, if this deck was running a Hasten, then maybe. If it was running Levitate, then maybe. I'm just not seeing it. I can't even think of a way, even with infinite elements. I mean, so here's the thing. The Phaedra back there, the reason you have to wait until you can Mirror Mail her up like that is in this matchup, you have to assume that your opponent has an answer to Phaedra and can kill her in 1 hit with the spell. Has a burn, has a fireball, has an explosion, has a lightning cross, has something, is holding on to something, because that's your win con. Once it's dead, you're in trouble. But the mirror mail, roundly stops that. But it only stops it if you're not in pressure, because if you're being pressured, mirror mail doesn't do much if you just get punched in the face.
Yeah, they could just go up and punch Phaedria for 1/4 attack and it dies.
Everything in this deck has 4 front attacks, so he's still incredibly frail. But in this situation, you bought enough time, you have everything set up. I really just, the way I see it is, it was that one window. If we go back and actually review the game, I think the Radiant pack had that one window there where maybe Nora Adorable wasn't quite aggressive enough with the Sun Mage after Raceland bricked a turn. I think it was turn 3, his turn 3, he was on 4 elements. He bricked that turn real bad, and you just have to read it and go in. Because
maybe she was just scared of all those freeze shatter combos, but it turns out those came out regardless.
Those came out late, and turns out he was packing the Blood Ritual, which was a better, different answer.
That's right, that was a rough turn. The total reset on, I think that was turn 4 or 5?
Yeah, it was right after the, I think it was turn 5, it was right after the Blazing Surge came out. And investment it didn't end up being the difference just because everything kept on getting O-code by spells, Unfortunately, we didn't see any destroys come out from Raceland's deck. Not very good in this matchup. He probably sacrificed them for elements. And
what is destroy?
Destroy is just 5 armor-piercing damage, so the health
just
there.
Just straight up kill spell, or I guess not straight up kill spell, but big
damage.
Spell. Yeah.
It's supposed to be a kill spell. It kills a lot of stuff, but it's not very good against fire. With that high hit points and low armor, the armor piercing doesn't give you much.
Yeah, so fire units are known for high HP, no armor. So spells that are dealing armor piercing damage, you're paying a lot of the card budget to get the armor piercing that doesn't do anything for you.
Generating any value, and they also have the high attack power. So, in just like a head-to-head Dark versus Fire, without any tech options specifically for Fire, Dark is at a disadvantage here. That's where the Veiled Knights come in and stuff like that. But it looks like
Adorable's gonna get in there. Let's
pushing up.
Here's the strategy of just throwing back too much stuff for Razeland to deal with quickly enough. This is probably her last real chance here, and I mean a giant Pirewolf Alpha is kind of on the right track there.
Helps.
Although I don't know that how big is the snowball slime right now? How many waters are on there?
3 waters on there, but it doesn't really matter because Veiled Knight and the Pirewolf Alpha is dead.
Oh yeah,
Shatter.
It just gets death touched, just lethal.
What I'm seeing here is, and with that flash freeze, it's at 3 right now, but it'll be at 6, which also Firewolf Alpha. So then you don't even need the death touch, and then you shatter the Justice Flame Sphere, freeze Effie and the medic. I mean, it's just curtains. I don't see.
Yeah. So if you were advising this game, or if you were piloting the Radiant Pack deck, you just call it quits at this point, right? You think that this is just unwinnable?
I mean, I think A+ for effort, right? You might as well play it out, especially when you're still learning the game. But yeah, you see that engine come out, and you just know that that's the killer. Yeah, so tough.
Yeah, let's talk about ending the game here. So all you need to do is 10 damage to your opponent's face to win the game. And as we've seen from a lot of these units, it really only takes 2 of them to hit to win the game. But you have to get into that back row. That's true. Pirewolf Alpha could basically do it by himself.
Famous for ending games and on his own.
Does he really?
The triple pump, and you're in there.
So Pirewolf Alpha has 7 front attack to start, and then you can use the Surge ability to pay, up to unlimited fire mana to increase that attack. And only 3 fire when he also costs 3 fire. Seems like a pretty easy thing to do.
Yeah, as long as it's not the turn you play him, you can just shotgun people's health away. But not in this situation. I think, if I'm in Nordorgel's position here, I just have to think back on what happened in the game and where my window was, right? At this point, you just have to go back and reflect. Out comes another snowball slime. So here's the thing. I mean, this feels really rough, but it's going to take a while for this engine to actually end the game. Generally, a control deck like this, like in a lot of card games, kind of just wins through demoralization. Snowball slime before the flash freeze. Both of them are going to get pumped. Everything's frozen.
Oh, so both snowball slimes get 3 more attack and 3 more health. And they're going to do that basically every turn.
Yeah, and probably some shatters to boot here. I'd be astonished if we did not see a shatter on something. I don't know if he'll choose to do it on Effie or if he'll choose to do it on Justice Flamesphere.
If he does it on Effie, it's adjacent, right? So it doesn't hit.
Yeah,
it doesn't hit diagonals.
It would take out the medic, but he's going to opt to do it on the closer threat, the Justice Flamesphere. I think that's what I would do as well.
Yeah, you need to bat No Adorable back from your front gate here.
Yeah, even if it's frozen, you don't want her to have that foothold. You want to protect your engines here.
Yeah,
it's imperative that you clear that, because otherwise she can summon something and destroy Phaedra. That happens, all of a sudden you're back in the game. So that's why you play it out, right? Your opponent could blunder like that, but Iceland's not going to make that mistake. Yeah, and now he's attacking with the 7 power slime.
It doesn't even need the Veil of Night at this point. Just punches really hard.
Yeah.
This snowball slime. So the snowball slime has 6 elements on him now?
Yeah, that one's got 6.
So he has +6 attack, +6 health. Wow. And he's fully healthy, right? So he's now at 9 total health with 1 armor?
Yeah, he is doing his namesake. He's snowballing. I mean, Raceland's got every engine out here. He's got the more important banner. There's actually another banner in this deck, but I'd argue that Veil of Night is more important in this matchup. He's got, both snowball slimes. Deck only runs 2. He's got Phaedra mirror mailed up. I mean, what more could you ask for, really?
That seems pretty solid.
Yeah, and at the end of the turn, he's just going to put Flash Freeze back on the top of his deck. He wasn't able to get Shatter again, but, I mean, do you really need it at this point?
Now, what happens if you run out of cards in your deck? Can we just wait them out?
So, if you run out of cards in your deck, those cards you sacrifice to Ethereal Plane are going to flip over, shuffle, and become your deck. So, if you got rid of a lot of late game stuff in the early game, you might be really happy to see it again. If you got rid of a lot of tech options that aren't going to be useful in the matchup, you're going to be kind of sad and have it. Eventually,
so that's when things do cycle back around, but you have to go through your entire deck to start seeing them again.
Yeah, and it takes quite a while, right? But if you do manage to run out of everything, then you just have to play with what you have left on the board, and generally a winner will be evident at that point.
So how many turns do you think the average game is? And I'm sure it's quite a range.
It's really quite a range. I mean, in this matchup where you have a real hardcore control deck, I mean, we're on turn 12 or so, and it's going to be probably another 3 or 4 turns for this game to actually end, because Raceland has to make his way all the way across the board. But in a more high octane, mid-range matchup, or if you have aggro decks are more like tempo decks in this game, because you kind of build up a timing push with them. Traditional aggro, where you just mash your face into your opponent, doesn't work so well because of the advantage to defender. Just by
you just kind of walk into their backboard and they just eat all your dudes.
Yeah, with their superior elements, at walk up, they have more cost to answer your threats. So advantage is kind of the defender. So traditional aggro doesn't work, but tempo decks are very powerful. And if you see some of those, like the Dive Bombers combo deck or tempo deck starter deck, is designed to win on turn 7 or 8. consistently. So yeah, it really just depends on what you have.
Yeah, well, we'll have to watch and see these players finish it out.
I'm actually not sure. I think it might be Nora Adorable's turn. I think she's trying to find a way around this, which...
Trying to check that what she got in hand. 6 cards in hand. See if there's any way out of this trap. But
yeah,
like a good control deck, it's gonna be tough.
Start.
Although this card gets you out of freeze.
Because she doesn't have the elements to use his attack this turn.
Interesting. So that attack replaces your other like normal like side attack, right?
Yeah, so that attack would give you an attack token, just like using one of your attack edges there. It doesn't do any damage, it just does what it says on the attack. Some special attacks do damage, this one just thaws your units. Which again, this is a tech option for water, one of fire's counters. And a good card to see right now, I kind of, admittedly, I forgot that this was in here. I don't want to say that this really gives her a chance, but it's the right option, you know? It's the best shot she's got for sure.
Well, I worry that Phaedria is just gonna peer beyond twice, get the combo to kill it. Oh, I guess it can't be frozen.
It's killed that way,
It can't be killed that way. That's
destroy,
good.
it's out of range from destroy, and Raceland can't summon anything that can hit it, at least not next turn, because he doesn't have control to summon in that second row. So it's safe for now. It looks like she's advancing. She did actually use the thawing ring, so she must have had one of those elements overcharged, and I just missed it.
It does just seem like the snowball slimes are so threatening on their own at this point that the Eternal Beacon's not bad, but he has 5 attack in most directions and 6 health. Like, it's okay, but this one slime's like 9+ health at this point, maybe 12. I haven't counted in a minute here.
Yeah,
I gotta turn the okay. I got 6 and 3 on their stacks.
Yeah, they still have the same amount because we just haven't been back to Raceland's turn in a little while here. But like the thawing was a good start, but unless you had enough, unfortunately, it takes 7 to play him and use his attack. His attack has a cost associated with it, so you don't have many elements left over to pump your team with Effie. And even if you did, like only 1 unit is in range. So the fact that her ability pumps your entire board, it doesn't help much in this case. You just don't have enough forward threats.
Yeah, it's mid-range decks run into this, right? They build in power. You have that big peak, and then if you get reset at any point, you sometimes have like one more chance to really get up in power before the kind of control really starts locking you down.
Yeah,
I think we've crested that peak a few turns ago at this point, and so it's really just about like kind of clearing out this, probably like the last hurrah of powerful units from Nora Adorable.
I mean, you can definitely see from the position of her unit, she's trying to play around that free shatter combo, which can be at Raceland's fingertips on demand at this point. She's doing everything she can.
All right, and Raceland's gonna untap on his turn here, so let's see what he's gonna play. There's a full stack of 8 elements, 10 elements.
Yeah.
Wow, he's got some gas.
He's got the other banner now.
Here's the other banner. So what's this other banner do? Once per turn, you can freeze 1 unit, and anytime something is frozen, it loses a health. Huh.
So just like
slowly whittling everything down. and locking down the biggest, baddest thing your opponent has.
Yeah, and also like just that flexible lockdown, very easy to enable shatters now. You don't necessarily need that flash freeze every turn, so that's powerful. The whittling down is, not super important if you're going to be shattering something all the time, but it can help. And notably, the rainy day goes through mirror mail. So if there was like a mirror mail threat, it could pierce that because mirror mail actually only protects burst and attached spells.
Oh, that's interesting. So mirror mail protects against the other two types of spells, but not against the banner type spells.
Banners are marquee spells of the element, very powerful. They have certain exceptions, and in this case, it's like the only way to freeze a mirror mailed unit besides one of the attacking it directly with a freezing unit will also do it, but this is like a spell that can actually get through it. A big mirror mailed threat is a big problem for this deck as well. So Rainy Day is kind of there. If you're worried about that, you can hang on to it as an answer. But yeah, like as a spell-based control deck, you're rolling with spell engines here. You don't have a lot of physical power, so mirror mail can be very scary. And this card is there to just kind of like hopefully stave off that threat. It's not the most efficient at doing it, but it can at least do it.
Yeah, I think now we're just going to start seeing the value come through here. Oh, yeah, and there's another freeze of the back two. Just going to make those snowball slimes even bigger. And just eventually he can just... I mean, he could probably walk across the board at this point, right? Like these guys are huge.
Yeah, the snowball slimes.
Now, the snowball slime has the slime walk effect, which a number of the slime type units have, where it can occupy kind of the same space as other units. Now, can it attack when it's on top of someone?
It can attack when it's on top of someone, but it can't attack what it's on top of, if that makes sense.
Oh, okay. So it has to attack with one of its directional attacks, and those don't hit anything if it's like on top of the only unit around.
Yeah, so a lot of slimes, like the other two slimes in the game, will have an effect for units that are on top of it. For the snowball slime, it basically just makes it so that if you want to march that thing up across, like up the board, which honestly at this point I think Raceland should be doing, they have so much health, right? So if you just want to march it up the board, it can't be blocked. It can't be stopped. You just walk over whatever's in front of it and then end the game with its ginormous attacks. Just knowing that it can take hits from whatever. You freeze anything that tries to hit it. You just encroach your slimes. I mean, at this point, you have two of them. I would just be pushing those forward and flash freezing anything in my way. It'll take some hits from a newcomer that's summoned. That's all right. Push them forward, flash freeze everything. Just repeat until you win.
Yeah, if we're taking a look at the board from Nor Adorable's side of view, it's not looking great.
No, and this is basically what we alluded to.
This is what
basically, as soon as I saw the engine come down, it's only gotten worse from there, right? I think we're only actually 2 turns from that turn, and I mean the tide's completely shifted. This game is, it's looking more and more over, but that was the turn where it ended.
And it looks like they scooped.
Yeah, I assume that is a concession from Nor Adorable. But a very well played game, I thought. A lot of fun to watch, at least for me. I had a ton of fun doing it. So
yeah, well, and I think like you said, it was quite a close game. It really came down to just a couple, like one turn where Raistlin kind of fumbled and couldn't quite get the control together, but that advantage just wasn't pressed to finish it out. All right, well, let's get our players back in here and give them a little post-game interview.
Bring me back to the shitty boards.
Hey, do you guys want to jump up to the game dev channel?
We return.
Hello, Raislin. Hello, Noah Adorable. All right, so it seemed like the engine of control was set up there at the end. There was quite a painful lockdown with the snowball slimes, the freezes, the Phaedria with the mirror mail. It seemed like quite the lockdown. So, Raislin, how did that game feel for you?
Well, I started the game out by creating for myself one of the biggest nombos I've ever seen in my whole life, and I regret everything that I did.
What was that?
Uh, the first card I think that literally the first card I got rid of was let me find it. Was
Go ahead and
was
just
the
throw it
siren.
up. There you go.
It was the siren, and I never have really liked the siren playing it, but what I failed to realize is the siren lets me discard, and I had a whole bunch of the cards in my hand that when they get discarded, I just get to use them and get around all of their negative effects of
Oh,
like
that's
being.
right, because you did have multiple the blood rituals. You
So
had
like
the
I could,
relentless dead.
yeah, I could have like done that at a way more opportune time and have a body on the field. So once I shot myself in the foot right at the beginning, and that I proceeded to then draw all of my late game cards, and so I got rid of all of those. And then luckily I was able to get the freeze cards just in time to try to stall the game out. And
Yeah,
the relentless deads and the zombos and the kill my guy to kill their guy just kept me in it. It was real close.
yeah, it looked like you bricked there on turn 3, which I'm sure was insult to injury after trashing the siren on turn 1. But were you worried there on right after that turn 3 where you kind of tutored and passed turn?
Yeah, basically at that point I was like, if she gets any of the things that removes frozen, the game's over and I'm swarmed, I'm dead. But I have to take this turn to set up because I just wasn't drawing what I needed to draw. And
Ouch.
then the Veil of Night came in clutch. It's the first time I've ever managed to resolve is a dirty word. The first time I ever managed to play it and have it be on the board, and it did absolutely work against all those high HP, no armor units. It's a game that was a game saver.
Wow, yeah. So from our perspective, it looks like you just had all the answers all the time outside of that turn 3 blunder. But it sounds like from your perspective, you were just top decking like a pro and found exactly the right set of cards in the right order.
Well, once I got to tutor for 3 for the one card, like I got to look for the exact card that I wanted. That's why I chose that to start out with, and then hope that I drew into things I could use. But just being able to be like, all right, I didn't draw the cards I wanted. Let me just play the card that lets me now find the card that I need in the present board state.
Oh, okay. Oh, so
Was
Plunder the Deep
helpful.
was your starting card.
No, it was the Divine Gift. It was the only look for one.
It
Oh,
was,
the tutor for one. Okay, so
yeah,
you use the tutor to find the other tutor. Yeah, search your deck for
Yeah.
any card, add it to your hand. Yep.
Yeah, it
Sounds
was
good.
a super good game. Managed to get to the end and play Phaedria, who is Bay, and every time she gets on the field, it gets fun for me, and I don't particularly care about anyone else at that point.
how did you feel about the mirror mail in this deck over Sanctity? It seemed like it definitely was
Way better.
Yeah, okay. That's actually a recent change, is why I ask. I just think that's the win con, and it seems like this game showcased that for sure.
Yeah,
you have so much
to
control.
like you save up 100,000 elements, you play Phaedria, you get her ability off, it feels really good, and then they play something that just kills her, and it's like, oh no, like that's even worse, because you didn't stunt your next draw, but like you're no longer getting through your deck to new cards at that point, and so if she goes away immediately, then it's a disaster. So the Mirror Mail, A plus.
Yeah, I was trying to look for an in. I knew Phaedria was coming. I was saving a lot of removal, but didn't give an inch. No way for me to get her if she comes out immediately with a mirror mail.
I mean, again, there's not much you can do if that's how Phaedra goes on the board, and that's kind of what you're going to expect when we're 2/3 or like 3/4 through the deck. I just think in this case, Raceland, you bought enough time, and that was kind of the game. But
Yeah.
maybe let's shift over to Noradorable, shift over to your perspective. When you were kind of pushing in early and you saw the turn 3 kind of brick come out for Raceland, were you worried that that was like a bluff, or because you had on that turn, I believe you summoned a Sun Mage and then moved your Frenzy Flame up. So instead of like putting 2 things on the 3rd row there, you kept one back. Were you worried that he was maybe trying to bait you or something like that?
Yeah, I think I was conscious of all the options that were in the graveyard. I don't remember exactly what was there at the time, but I was playing 5-dimensional chess or 5-row Elementile with myself, and I think I got a little spooked and might have played the best.
Gotcha.
I will say I had there was a point in my hand that I had the Flame Demon. I had an Angel that I was like waiting for. I was like, okay, he's only got 3 shatters in his deck max. As soon as that 3rd one comes out, I'm going to play my heavy hitter. But then Phaedra came out, and it was endless shatters and endless tears.
Yeah. Yeah, it was good. It's always good to be counting that resource, but you are on a clock against that deck. It's not necessarily going to bring the fight to you, but you got to stop that engine. I noticed you went for the banner, the Blazing Surge, on turn 5, I believe, which I thought was cool, and a neat way to navigate it around a control deck with a lot of removal. Turns out, Raceland had the Blood Ritual, which is kind of what you were vulnerable to using that sort of strategy. But I thought that was a cool approach. Was that kind of your idea? You were just going to commit resources to something that can't be removed and hope that it paid dividends?
Yeah, there was a time in which I didn't have a lot of units in my hand, and I had a lot of removal, which I know was useful, and I was trying to save up. And I didn't, and I knew, okay, if he plays a Blood Ritual, I'd at least want the choice to pick my, least favored card. But when I didn't have the, elements built up, I wanted to play something and keep the momentum going and not leave so much of my time untapped. So, yeah, that's I think why I played the banner.
I see. So you were opting to play on curve, which I think makes sense. It just happened to be he had the particular answer for that card, unfortunately.
Yep. But still, good game. Good games all around.
Yeah, it seemed
yeah.
like it was a good match. We were commenting that it really seemed like the game was, on a knife's edge balance-wise, and then it was just a turn or two that kind of turned the tide. And there was a couple of chances where you almost clawed back, but that it wasn't totally decided until the end there. It was a good balance. It was a good back and forth. A good control deck versus mid range.
Yeah, thank you very much for playing, guys. I thought you both played very well, and I enjoyed watching it. Yeah, until that engine came out, I think could have gone either way. So that was super cool.
Yeah.
Well, thank you. It's a great game, and really do enjoy the amount of choice that you always have. You're always making decisions, whether it's to move up or to which card to get rid of for elements. Or it's almost paralyzing how much choice you have. It definitely, you have to play with the same deck, the same cards over and over again to recognize the right play patterns, which is super cool.
Yeah, I think this was an exciting game to watch, and I really enjoy just the number of routes that your deck can go, both in construction and in play, and in draft. And just being able to adapt to your opponent while also kind of finding the synergies between your own units really makes for a challenging strategy game, which I definitely appreciate.
Yeah, so I think that kind of does it for our match tonight. It was kind of a longer one with the control matchup that happens. Do we have any closing remarks or?
Yeah, I'll just say, we're live on Kickstarter now, so go look up Elementile on Kickstarter. As of this video, we are at $4,796. out of our $30,000 goal. So we are on our way to that goal. Do check it out. On the page has a bunch of info on the how to play. We have the card library on there, so you can look at all the cards. Obviously, we've been playing with a lot of temporary art here, although we are starting to get that final art in. Especially, you can see those hero cards are looking quite good. So very excited to bring this game to you today. Thank you so much for watching and participating. This has been a joy to work on, and I really think many people will enjoy this game. And so I hope you check it out, and I hope that you give it a chance. And we'll see you on the Elementile plane. And with that, I think we are all set. So thank you so much, everyone. And I'll close with the trailer.
Jeez.
Thanks, guys.
As the long winter draws to a close, the winds of magic blow once again. Distant clans that lay dormant once again answer the call of battle. Conflict has breached the elemental plane into our world, and its power is now in your hands. But the elements answer another master. Your opponent also has command of this power, and there can only be one victor. To achieve victory, you must position and plan your assault, and use the tides of battle to secure your dominance. Elementile is a grid-based card game that puts you in control of the direction of your deck and resources. Come to battle with your own constructed decks, or prepare for the ultimate tournament of wits in a cube draft with 6 to 10 players. Elementile's unique resource system allows you to take control of your destiny and transmute cards into the elements you need. Replenish your hand at the end of each turn with 2 new cards, ensuring you always have fuel for the fight. Never again will your strategies be crushed on the cruel whim of deck RNG. Face off in intense 1v1 battles of momentum and positioning. Summon units to the field and push them forward to secure more space for future summons. But beware of overextending. Powerful spells can halt your advance and turn the tide of battle against you. Pulverize your opponent's forces as you advance your vanguard. Carefully position your units to make the most of their strengths. A single well-placed strike can be lethal. Once you march your force to the enemy's gates, strike a lethal blow directly for victory, thus ensuring your dominance on the elemental plane. This spring, ready yourself for the ultimate drafting and constructed card game experience. This full cube game comes with everything you need for up to 10 players. Preview the entire card library now on PlayElementile.com and sign up for our Kickstarter to receive a tabletop simulator kit available now. The elements have arrived. Can you harness their power?